What's going on, guys? So I'm a little late on this news, but it's about Wonder Woman 2, which is kind of crazy when we still have Wonder Woman in theaters right now. But apparently, there is some news that has come out recently about Wonder Woman 2 being set in the era of the 1980s, and it has to do with the end of the Cold War. Before I go any further, if you're one of those people that has not seen Wonder Woman yet, there will be spoilers, so you have been warned. But this news does come from ScreenRant.com, and they said that, yes, Wonder Woman 2 will be set in the 1980s, but at the same time, Chris Pine may return in some capacity. That is one reason why I wanted to do this video, and another reason is this movie being set in 1980, because I'm really interested in this. Okay, so let's just go ahead and clear the Chris Pine thing up first. If you guys if you're watching this video still and you haven't seen Wonder Woman, the first movie, well, Chris Pine dies at the end. He sacrifices himself, and that's kind of what sets up Wonder Woman to be like, no, I'm crazy, I'm gonna kick everybody's ass, which was epic. But he totally died. There was no way he was going to escape what happened to him at the end of that movie. So the only way I can see him coming back in the second one is through flashbacks. But they didn't really see him. What I should say is Wonder Woman didn't really spend that much time with him to have so many flashbacks to, you know, actually go back on. Like, they spent a few days together, bada bing, bada boom, he died, and that was it. So it's like, you can't really go off much on flashbacks. But I will say that huge nerd Kevin Smith and his friend Mark Bernardin over on Fat Man on Batman did have some awesome theories about how Chris Pine could come back to Wonder Woman 2. One of them being that maybe Wonder Woman, you know, gets hit with some toxin or something like that, and she's hallucinating, and that is where Chris Pine comes back as Steve Trevor, and he's like giving her some advice, or maybe she's just freaking out and she's seeing him because she misses him. All of that jazz. That seems very plausible, you know, what's going on. Maybe there's a villain that, you know, hits her with some gas or something. I mean, but I don't know if they would want to do gas, like, again, because that happened in World War I, or I should say Wonder Woman 1, and I don't know if they want to bring back the same elements to do that. So, I don't know, that was one of their theories that they could do, which I was like, alright, yeah, I could totally believe that, her hallucinating that he's, you know, in the area. Another thing they mentioned about how Steve Trevor could possibly come back to Wonder Woman, and this one I really loved, and that would be that he's actually Martian Manhunter. That idea I really love, because it would be awesome, one, to have Martian Manhunter in the DCEU. Two, you get to bring back Chris Pine, and it's not some crazy, like, oh, I survived the plane explosion, somehow I had a parachute kind of bullshit like that. It would actually make sense, because the Martian Manhunter can actually transform into anybody he wants to. Also, Martian Manhunter can read people's minds, so maybe he just, you know, zones in on Wonder Woman's mind and sees that Steve Trevor is somebody that's very comforting for her, or somebody that she loves, so he takes that form to try to fit in, or to maybe be friends with her, and maybe she's just kind of like freaking out because she's like, there's no way this is possible, and then maybe he comes out and says, like, he's like, no, I took this form because I thought it would be comforting to you, blah, 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 and then that's how she finds out that he's actually a Martian, you know, the Martian Manhunter. That could be something along those lines, which I think that would be pretty awesome to see. On top of that, what if Martian Manhunter was one of the reasons, like, part of the Cold War? You know, they're probably going to use that setting, maybe, like, both, you know, Russia and freaking the US know that there's aliens, or that there was an alien invasion or something like that they try to cover up, and maybe Martian Manhunter is the person that they're both trying to go after, and Wonder Woman's coming in to try to save this person, but Martian Manhunter's also, like, trying to, like, escape or whatever. You know, like, something like that. I don't really know what's going on. Apparently, Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns are already writing a treatment for the next Wonder Woman movie, and maybe that's where this news is coming from. Somebody close to them has leaked that information, or this is complete, like, rumor BS. The Manhunter thing is not anything part of that stuff. I'm just saying that is what Kevin Smith and Mark Bernardin over on Fat Man and Batman said that could happen if, you know, if they're trying to think about bringing Chris Pine back, which those ideas are pretty awesome. Separate from all of that is the Patty Jenkins and Jeff Johns news that they're already writing a story or treatment for the next Wonder Woman. Although Patty Jenkins has not signed on to direct the next one, I believe that's probably going to be a money issue, since Wonder Woman is more than likely going to be the best like, selling DC movie that they have, she's gonna be like, well, I'm the best, so, like, pay me the best, you know what I'm saying? Which she definitely deserves that money. So I think that's gonna be the holdup for her, but I do think WB is gonna be like, shit, I don't care, whatever you want. You make us a lot of money, we'll pay you that money. But I do want to talk about the setting of this movie, not like the 80s and all of that jazz. That I could really care less for, because I think they could probably do something awesome, you know, with Patty Jenkins and her whole team back on. But the biggest thing is, will that make sense for there to be another period piece for Wonder Woman? Because yes, there is a huge 100-year gap between Wonder Woman, the first movie, and BVS. There's like 100 years between that. And from what I got when watching Wonder Woman was that after the whole Steve Trevor death and all that, she doesn't fight anymore. Like, she beat Ares, and she hasn't fought until BVS. That was my interpretation. Now, we do know, if you saw the end of the movie, she does put back on the Wonder Woman thing and she jumps off the building, but that is post BVS at that point, because remember, at the start of the movie, Bruce Wayne sends her the picture, and that starts the whole flashback of her going back to World War I and all of that jazz, and we get the story of that actual photo. So the beginning of the movie is post BVS, where she made her return to fighting, and we saw that in her little bit of screen time in BVS. She was thinking about fighting. She was trying to get this photo back from Lex, but she was on a plane and she was like, I don't know. And then she finally decides, like, all right, I need to return to action, and she goes and she saves Batman's ass and helps out Superman defeat Doomsday. So one would think from Wonder Woman to BVS, she hasn't fought in that whole time. And, you know, I want to say that BVS is set in modern times when it came out 2 or 3 years ago, whenever that was, because damn, that feels like it's been out for a while. Anyways, BVS is set in modern day, and if, you know, Wonder Woman's going to go to the 1980s, that is a huge gap there. And why, I don't know how that would make sense if she doesn't fight after, you know, the first Wonder Woman movie. How is she going to fight in 1980, or I should say the 80s, but then BVS looks like that was her return to fighting? So I just don't see how that's going to make sense. Now, they could easily do some creative writing and say, like, oh, I lied to you. I did actually do some things, like, in secret, you know, since World War I, or, you know, they could do something like that. Or she can just talk about how she worked undercover and all that. But that feels like kind of like a cop-out, you know what I mean? Like, they're just doing that to go ahead and actually work in the 80s after they kind of wrote themselves into a corner and make the next movie. It had to be in, like, modern day times, you know what I mean? Unless some new information comes out in Justice League and she talks about how other post or past fights she's had, you know, happened, you know, during the 100-year span or whatever. But from my interpretation of Wonder Woman to BVS, it seems like she just went in chill mode after defeating Ares, and is just like, all right, I'm just gonna live on Earth and try to do what I can. And she doesn't look like she's, I don't know, had any other relationships since then. It was just always about Steve Trevor. And she even tells Bruce in the email that, you know, thank you for bringing him back to me. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens, and if they are going to have this movie in the 1980s, how they explain that, because like I said, it just gives off the sense that she didn't fight between Wonder Woman and BVS. And I'm going to be really interested to see how they bring Chris Pine back, because that's, you know, there ain't no walking away from what he did in Wonder Woman. Anyways, guys, you know I want to know your thoughts on all of this information in the comment sections down below. Don't forget, if you ever want to support this channel, you can check out the Patreon like these awesome people did, or you can do the OG thing and give this video a like and share it with all of your Wonder Woman buddies. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button for all things nerdy and geeky on this channel. As always, I'm your host, JUICEbox. Remember, when you wake up in the morning, ask yourself something. Have I had my daily dose of juice? See you guys next time.